Episode 28. Life insurance. Is it worth it? Welcome back to One Extraordinary Marriage, where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of intimacy. You're here tonight with Elisa DiLorenzo.
And Tony DiLorenzo.
And tonight we're going to be talking about life insurance. Is it worth it? Is it worth the peace of mind? But before we get to that, there are quite a few things comments and phone calls that we need to talk about. We actually got a phone call this week from Jim, a listener from Wisconsin.
Yep.
And
gosh, you're going into that quick. Okay.
Well, do you want to back up and talk about 4th of July?
Sure. We can talk about our week, see what's been going on, then we can get to Jim.
Okay.
Is that good with you?
That's fine with me.
It just seems like such a long time since we podcasted.
Well, that's because we podcasted early last week.
Yeah.
Because I was gone.
Because you were gone. Yep.
Yeah.
It's just been a crazy week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just had a lot going on and been trying to pull all this together, and I didn't know if we were going to even make it here tonight because of the way you've been feeling.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling well last 36 hours.
Yeah. So my honey wasn't doing too well, which hampered other things as well.
What kind of other things?
Well, my 3 days are up, and I was like, oh, after the fireworks, this, that, and the other.
No, you still have tomorrow.
I know.
Today's only Monday.
But I was thinking after the fireworks.
Oh, you wanted to make your own fireworks at home.
You got it.
Got it. Yeah, I was barely breathing last night.
Yeah.
So.
That's weird. I'm glad you didn't go to the emergency room. And if anybody thinks that's wrong, I'm just saying that because a couple of years back, Elisa went to a chiropractor and he did some manipulation
pushing down on my chest, and it was one of those instances where really I thought I was having a heart attack because the pain just kept getting worse and it was radiating out from my chest, and you start having all of those I think I'm dying type feelings, and so I finally go to the emergency room, leave Tony home. Alex was just a little guy. He was little.
Oh, so it's more than 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was probably 1.5.
Oh, okay. Wow.
It was before we moved here. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're asking me all these questions because nothing's coming up on the x-rays or all of the different diagnostic tools they've got. And I mentioned that I had this chiropractic exam, and the ER doc's like, oh, you probably just have bruised ribs. So over the weekend, similar experience, except it's all just like in my upper left shoulder chest area.
Quadrant.
And then I start having trouble breathing, like to the point where I can't even take a deep breath because the pain's so bad. And I'm like, oh, here I go. Heart attack. Never had a heart attack. It's not like this is a common thing, but you start thinking, okay, is the pain radiating down my left arm?
So fitting that we're talking about life insurance.
It's fitting that we are talking about life insurance tonight. And so, the pain's not so bad that I think I need to go to the emergency room, but it gets progressively worse. And today, during the day, it was really bad. I mean, I was like, there were a couple times where, trying to talk to the kids. We were able
to get rid of the kids for 3-4 hours.
Beautiful, wonderful friend. They have kids the same age as our kids. And so I texted her this afternoon and said, would you please take my kids for a little bit? And she did. Bless her heart. And then I still have some of the pain, but not nearly as bad. And this is not to say that if you are having severe pain that you shouldn't go to the emergency room, because obviously there could be life-threatening. I didn't feel like I had gotten to the point where...
I think they understand that.
Yeah, I know. But, sometimes people think, well, if you're not going to
they're probably thinking about us, going, well, why didn't you go to... We're self-employed. We have major medical. So... We
wait and make sure it's really an emergency before we go.
Exactly.
Unless it's one of the kids, in which case, yeah.
And I don't know if any of you can relate to us on that area, but, it gets a little stupid, in my opinion, sometimes when you have to go to these doctors and they charge you $500 for stepping through the door. I know it's important because I want my wife to be here, but it was one of those decisions we were just sort of looking and weighing it out and seeing what would happen, having known that Elisa went through something like this some time back.
And I did I had actually spent earlier last week, I was in Milwaukee for a conference on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and flew back Wednesday. And my suitcase did get substantially heavier over the 3 days that I was there. And it's entirely possible that I did, as I was pulling it out of the overhead bin, wrench something, and it just took a couple of days to get fully aggravated. And so, going back, going, oh my gosh, what did I do? What would I have only done with that hand? Mm-hmm. And I know that pulling my carry-on out of the overhead bin, I use that arm. So that's the only thing I can think of. Obviously, if it doesn't get any better, I will go to the doctor.
Yes. Oh, I know. You put in a phone call today, even though they were closed.
Even though they were closed, 5th of July. Happy belated 4th of July.
Right.
To everyone.
Hopefully you all had a great time.
We did end up watching fireworks with some friends last night here in San Diego. It was a bit chilly.
For San Diego?
It has been unseasonably cool in the evenings. We were out the last couple of nights doing different things with the kids, and we're all bundled in hats and heavy jackets. And
yeah, we're hoping you guys are all having a great summer with your families and all. I mean, we've been doing a lot these last couple of nights. With Friday night was date night. Mm-hmm. And when did Mom and Dad give us a gift card?
Our birthdays.
Okay, so my mom and dad gave us a gift card for Chili's or Macaroni Grill or one of those places. And so we were going to head over to Chili's, and then we noticed on the gift card you go to Macaroni Grill. So we decided to stop by the Macaroni Grill. Well, the Macaroni Grill is right next door to one of our malls here, and I thought it was a perfect opportunity to be able to show Elisa the iMac that I'm interested in getting. So I go, hey, you know what, hon? Let's go get a good meal. It'll cost us a couple of bucks because we always get a little dessert or something extra. It was a $25 gift card.
I do have to put in a plug for the Macaroni Grill right here. They have revamped their dessert menu.
They've revamped their whole menu. I think
it's very, but just a special plug for their dessert menu, because so often when we go out to dinner, and we always share dessert. We never get our own dessert, but lots of times you go to these restaurants and the desserts they give you, not only do they cost you almost $10, but they're huge.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, it's really good when we go with the kids because 4 of us eating some of these desserts is about right portion size. But Macaroni Grill has redone their dessert menu. I don't know how recently because we haven't been there in a while. But it's like real portion size.
It sounded recently, though, because our bartender, she was saying it. Because we were like, nah, they're always too big. She's like, no, check it out. They revamped it. So it sounded like...
So for those of you that are, conscious of portion sizes and like to have a little sweet something at the end of a meal, but don't want, the overflowing dessert plate, check out Macaroni Grill.
And it was cost effective, $1.99 to $3.99 for dessert. Another thing that's cool with Macaroni Grill, TGIF, notice on both of those menus, I think Chili's menu as well, they're coming out with the calorie counters there. So you can see what you're ordering and how many calories. And it's honestly has changed the way I will order something, because typically at Chili's, I'll go for one of their salads thinking, hey man, I'm eating something good. It's healthy. It's
got the lettuce in it and the vegetables.
Right. Well, usually I go for like the spinach one or
the Chinese,
the Chinese
or the
chicken,
Oriental
crispy chicken.
No, I get the crispy chicken. I'm the unhealthy one at Chili's.
I don't know if they have the Oriental. But anyways, some of these salads are whopping 900 calories. So I like to watch what I'm eating, and it's changed the way I've ordered a few times.
Yeah, so that's definitely. But so we ended up going to the Mac store because Tony's...
Well, no. Before we got to the Mac store, we were driving in, and here's something that Elisa, we're coming up on 14 years of marriage in October. If you listen to our podcast on Fireproof, we've talked about renewing our vows as a covenant under God. We are thinking about doing that this year, but we have decided to wait till our 15th. We just feel that 15 years, that's when we want to do it. Recently, though, I've noticed that Elisa isn't wearing her engagement ring or her wedding band because of the way the ring is. Is that what? I just noticed that you don't wear it as often as I think you should be. That's just my...
Part of it was when I had been wearing it all the time. I don't know if it's the way it comes together, or whatever, but I've got all kinds of funky skin things. I mean, we've talked about this before.
We've talked about that on the air?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have.
Okay.
And I just get like weird reactions, and I don't know if it's because my ring's dirty or what it is, but that ring finger is an area where I find that I have
a lot of irritation. And so when I don't wear my rings, it seems like the area stays dry and that finger is just healthier. Right.
So it's more been not a lack of commitment but I had a couple instances over the last 2 weeks where people have asked me about,
really?
Whether women...
Oh.
Both once when I was getting my nails done and once when I was in K5 exchanging your birthday present. Two women asked me about being married or if I was married or some version of that question.
So was it God sort of going, hey, you may want to put on your wedding band?
It probably was.
Okay.
I won't rule out that as a billboard.
You notice I don't take mine off.
Yeah. But there was a period of time when you did, and you actually, I believe, had to have it sawed off.
Well, because it was like so darn tight.
Okay, so you've had your time too.
Right.
Okay.
That was years ago.
And
years ago.
All right. So yes, so recently I had these 2 conversations.
And we've had conversations because of the way they feel and that they've been irritating you. We've been talking about getting you a new band or something so that you could wear it, feels better. So anyways, we're driving into the mall to go to Macaroni Grill. There's a big sign, 50 to 70% off. This jewelry store there, they're going out of business. So I'm thinking, maybe if we get by there, we'll go check it out. It so happens it's like diagonal from the Apple store, and Elisa sort of spots it as soon as we get up onto that floor. I mean,
okay,
you're like,
be honest. We were looking for that before we ended up at the Mac store.
No, we weren't.
Yes,
we were looking for a Victoria's Secret
because I had a return to make.
Right.
Okay, and Victoria's Secret was the same direction as the jewelry store.
I understand. Okay, but
that way.
I understand.
We weren't headed toward the
But it wasn't
store.
necessarily like I was out looking for that jewelry store.
Oh, okay.
It happened. Okay. So anyways, we go into the jewelry store, checking out some stuff. We're looking at bands, and Elisa has been liking these anniversary bands.
The anniversary style, yeah.
And so she saw some, and they looked good. I sort of dug them. I wasn't honestly super thrilled about them, just because it took away the diamond that I bought her, 15 years ago. And 16 years ago? No, 15.
You're right.
Thank you.
You're right. Sorry.
I know. So it was really cool. The guy in there was very helpful. Started helping us look at some things. He goes, "Hey, how about this one?" It sort of brings in together the anniversary band, but we also can mount your diamond. And so we started talking. Make a long story short, which I know we've made it already way too long. We ended up, Elisa and I are not impulse, but we sat there, we looked at the price, what they were taking off, which was 50%, and I just couldn't turn it down. So on July 8th, Elisa will have her new engagement ring, and we'll put some photos up of that on Facebook.
Thank you, honey. It was very surprising.
And we'll have it like on your hand, pictures.
Yes, on my hand. It was very surprising because I knew that Tony wanted to look at a Mac, and while the ring was not as much as the Mac was going to be, I also know that it was kind of like, oh.
And here's another God thing, though, because I've had a bike that I've been wanting to sell, a frame that I've been trying to sell, and on Saturday, so this was Friday, on Saturday, I just said, I got to sell this thing because I need to make up some money for the ring, which is totally cool. So I threw that thing up on Craigslist, and the first guy that responded, which is, if you guys have done Craigslist, you know this. The first guy responded, was all over it, and sold it to him. So,
which never happens.
So that was really cool. So
we're trying to sell a few more things to make up for our splurge.
Yeah, but it's worth
not
it.
that we didn't have the money, and not that we hadn't talked about it. It was just a little out of character for us to
do that
quickly.
Yeah, but you know what? It was a good deal. I think so. It's jewelry, man. Jewelry's always overpriced. Even for 50% off, it's overpriced. My opinion. I don't know if anybody else agrees, but that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
You're sticking to it.
And then Confessions of a Daddy on Saturday. My wonderful daughter, Miss Abigail.
You didn't think she was so wonderful on Saturday.
I didn't. And I'm just going to be truthful and honest and take off the mask here because I think this is an area where many of us as parents feel like we need to hide and not share. And so I'm going to share because I think it's what needs to happen for us to be able to be open and honest in our marriages. And Elisa wasn't around. She had taken off, and Abby was having a serious hiffy fit. I mean, it was just out of control. I put her in her room, and I just, typically what my stance is, if you're going to cry like that, just go cry it out in your room. I'm done listening to you. And it is, for me, the best way to just separate myself from the situation. I've learned over the years.
Right.
And so at one point, she is just crying, and there comes a point where she's just like, I'm stuck. And I'm going, okay, what's wrong? How did she get stuck? What is she stuck on? So I'm concerned and curious to see what's going on. And I'm trying to get in her room. Well, she's sitting behind the door, doesn't want to move. So I push my way in there because I need to see if she's stuck on something, seriously. And so I finally get in there, and she is just crying and just seething of just anger. Get out of my room. I don't like you, Daddy. Da, 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 da. And I got pretty close to this little girl's face and really just told her to be quiet. I didn't tell her to shut up. I don't tell her to shut up, but I was livid. I was so angry and so mad. And I think many of you can, or I don't know, many of you, but a lot of you maybe can feel what I'm going through. I mean, just the heat that was just rising in me. And I finally just got her and I put her on her bed, and she just flopped on her back, and I just got in her face a little bit more. And I'm just, Abby, enough. This is enough. We do not need to deal with this anymore. I'm tired of it. And at this point, I must have been fairly close to her because she counters back with me with, Daddy, you're spitting in my face. And I was like, I don't care. You need to listen. I'm tired of this. And Abby she was so mad and so flustered with me. I mean, she's just trying to like gasp for breath. She's crying so hard and she's trying to be quiet. She's and I felt so bad. In the moment, I didn't feel bad. And I finally just had to walk away from her room. She slithered under her bed. And I came out to the garage, or was I in the garage or the couch? And I just had to sit down and say, God, forgive me for the outburst I had on my daughter, and give me the strength to go back in there and let her know that I screwed up badly, and hopefully that she can forgive me and we can move on. I did let 5 minutes or more just sort of let it go, let her chill. I needed to chill. I haven't been like this in a long time, a long time. And so I just realized at the point that I walked back in there and I talked to her, coerced her out from underneath her bed, and she finally came out and we gave each other a big old hug, and I asked her for forgiveness. I told her that Dad screwed up, and she talked and she said she was sorry too for the way she had been acting. And, we just sort of gave each other a big old hug and walked out, and it was all good.
Well, and to your credit, I mean, you told me as soon as I came home. And interestingly enough, because she's usually the one that, if either you or Alex have done anything to her while I'm gone, the minute I walk in the door, she makes sure I know exactly what has happened.
Yeah, and she didn't mention it.
Yeah. She never mentioned it.
She still hasn't mentioned it to you, has she? No. I find that interesting as well.
Well, and I think it's because you went back and you were able to calm yourself down, which is something we've been working on her doing. Mm-hmm. And, talk to her about that because, you, in spite of the outburst, you made it right with her. And you let her know that what you did was not okay. And you handled it. So I don't think she felt the need when I came home that she had to do something to still make it right. Like she didn't need further protecting. It was
right.
You had taken care of it. And so she didn't need to.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
It worked. And we've had a fairly good weekend since. Sunday was good. Saturday night was good. Sunday was good. I mean, so I don't know. I just wanted to share it with everybody because I think this is one of those areas as parents, it happens and then we just sort of shove it under the rug and we don't want to tell anybody about it, but I'm here to tell you I screw up many a times. Ephesians 6:10 through 18, man, put on the armor of God, put it on because the devil's here, man, and he's alive and well, and there's one thing he wants to do, and he wants to step right in there and screw it all up. Mm-hmm. He does. So after that note, what are we going to go on to? Go on to Jim?
I think we should go into Jim's call.
All right. Let's get Jim's call.
You guys know we love it when you call in the number. We've made it a little easier for you. We've got a new number, and it's 858-876-5ONE. or for those of you that don't like to spell, 5663.
Yep. So here's Jim.
Hey, Tony and Elisa. This is Jim. I have a question for you. I love the show, by the way. It's fantastic. I am thinking about surprising my wife with a trip to one of those marriage retreats. But I've heard you mention before that you look for certain things in a marriage retreat, characteristics. I'm kind of curious, what are those things? What are the differences between them? Do you have any things I should try to stay away from? We've never been to one, and I'm thinking, well, I want to go to one, and I'd like to continue to do them, but I don't want to spoil it by choosing the wrong one the first time for the weekend. So it'll be like a weekend retreat. So if you could, give us your thoughts and let us know about that. I'd really appreciate it. Again, I love this show and love what you're doing. So God bless, and looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Jim, thank you so much for calling in. And this is actually a topic that...
One thing I want to say is, Jim, I'm sorry I cut you off, honey.
It's okay. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
But I just, when we first got this voice message, this is sort of the first one we've gone that's an actual question asking us about this, or just asking us a question instead of just saying, hey, it's a great show. We appreciate you saying it's a great show, but it's just awesome that you asked this question about marriage retreats.
It is.
Okay. Now you may go on.
Oh, okay. This is a topic that Tony and I have talked about quite a bit. We've had various experiences over the years. We have done we've done one full week.
That was a
retreat, family camp type thing. And then we've done marriage retreats with our church over the last couple of years. And we have pretty strong feelings. I'm laughing because we were talking about your call the other day, and Tony's like, well, this is what I'm going to say. So we have pretty strong feelings on this. So, honey, why don't you start?
Here's my thing, Jim. If you're looking for a retreat, what are you going there for? Mm-hmm. If you're just going there because you're like, hey, we're in a good spot, and we just want to gain a couple more tools that we can put in our tool chest that we're going to learn, man, there are many of them out there. Here's what I look for, though. When I'm looking at a retreat, I want one where there are some sessions each day, but I'm not going to go to a retreat where I need to be in a room from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. Sorry, not going to do it. To me, being at a marriage retreat is a time where I get to spend time with my spouse, learn from other couples, but also have a lot of free time to be able to just hang out with Elisa. That might mean getting up late, going to go get breakfast, do a devotional in the morning, get in there, do a couple of sessions, have a long lunch, get to the pool like we have done in the past. This past year, we had some really good lunches with some friends of ours and just had a great conversation. Get into the last session, and then at 4 o'clock, it's done. And we were on Saturday, 4 o'clock, it was done. We were at the pool for 3 hours, hanging out with a bunch of couples, learning from them, sharing with them, and then it was off to date night. And so when I look at these retreats and how much I'm spending, I also look at what amount of time I want to be spending with Elisa. Agreed?
That's true. And, I think as it is very much what you said. I mean, there are a lot of great marriage retreats out there. I know our church, in addition to the one that they put on themselves, it's a Church at Rancho Bernardo marriage retreat, they also promote the Weekend to Remember.
Yes, they do. We've never
marriage
been.
retreats. We have not been to those. From what I can gather, and in fact, I'm online right now, even just looking at they're a little more structured.
They are. Okay. And that's something to consider, Jim. I mean, it might be cool for you guys. You haven't done it before. Maybe you want a little more structure. And that might work for you guys. But just the reason I'm like this now is because when we did that family retreat some years back, it was presented to us as hey, you know what? It's a fun place, but you don't have to go to the sessions. Go to the sessions you want. It's all okay. Then we get up there and we're with some friends and some other folks that we begin to meet. And then if you don't show up to the session, everybody's like, well, where the heck were you? well, I didn't want to go. It didn't seem exciting. I'd been messing with the kids all morning. I just want to go. We were in the mountains of the San Bernardinos. It's just like I wanted to go hike around. I wanted to go play in the creek. I didn't want to sit in a session for an hour and a half. And so I was very turned off by that structure. It was just too much structure. Mm-hmm. Another thing to look at, if it's a big retreat, or if it's on a campus like we went to, what are the dining options? Huge.
That's a big one for us.
Because that one was cafeteria style. I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. I just not doing it. I want to eat in peace, and I don't want people all over the place pushing and shoving to try to get food. I'd rather go hang out at Starbucks or go to a bagel shop in the morning and pay my $10. Sorry. That's just me. So there are some things just to consider. The other thing I would also look at with these retreats, don't go into it going, oh my gosh, I'm going to get all this information. And then if you come out of it, you're like, gosh, I really didn't get anything out of it. I say whenever I go to a retreat or a seminar or anything like that that's marriage based, I always look for one golden nugget. Mm-hmm. What's one golden nugget I can pull out of it? And if I get two, so be it. But if we can pull out one golden nugget from a retreat that Elisa and I can go, wow, that really changed the way we're going to look at our marriage, or we're going to dive into something different, man, it's a success in my view.
Well, and Jim, I don't know where you are in terms of your marriage, but most marriage retreats are not marriage overhauls.
That's true.
You don't go to a marriage retreat. If you're in a good place, like Tony said, you're looking for that one golden nugget to just kind of keep, it's kind of a maintenance thing. What, what little tool can we add to our toolbox? If your marriage is not in a great place, then you're looking for that one thing that might just make a difference. What are other couples doing? I know this last marriage retreat we went to with our church, there were some couples there who had overcome the seemingly impossible and have come out on the other side still married.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
Dealing with issues of infidelity and long-term separations and finances and all of these things,
blended families
could potentially tear their marriages apart. And hearing their stories was very uplifting to say, you know what? There really is nothing that is impossible with God. Mm-hmm. The other thing, I think you said in your call you're from Wisconsin. We've got some friends, Jay and Laura LaFoon, who do their Celebrate Your Marriage conferences, and they actually do those in Michigan in Mackinac Island. And we'll put their website and also with the Weekend to Remember website. We'll put those up in the notes.
Yeah.
But Jay and Laura have a very entertaining presentation. We actually haven't been to one of their conferences, but they've been to our church. There's a lot of humor, a lot of fun to it, and I feel comfortable recommending their marriage retreats just based on the conversations and whatnot that we've had with them. So really, think about what you and your wife are looking for, where you are. Do you prefer more structure? Do you prefer more time to yourselves? And then as you're searching out retreats in your area, if your church has a retreat, ask people that have gone to that. Mm-hmm. If there are other churches in the area that do marriage retreats, find out what's going on in your area. Tap into some of those resources that are right there wherever you are.
Right. Because our church invites folks from outside of our church, and we've had them the last 2 years, people who do not attend our church come to the retreat.
So it's, I would definitely say, good for you and your wife that you're even considering this as a gift to her.
They're awesome.
I think that's a wonderful treat. And I think you both are going to get a lot out of it. Just, go in there with an open mind. Mm-hmm. Go in there with an open mind and have fun together.
Right. And just talk through it, though. I think the key is talking through it. What are you guys expecting? How much? I think the time issue is a big one, because if you're expecting to go, and this is something that Elisa and I learned, is that we were expecting to spend more time with each other, and then we didn't spend the amount of time we want to each other. So then we were both frustrated. Mm-hmm. So that was something that we had to go through, and I don't want anybody to deal with that if you don't have to. I mean, if you're looking for something where you're spending more time together, then find one where you have a session or two in the morning, a session in the afternoon, then you have a lot of free time to do what you guys want to do together.
Absolutely. So thank you again,
and let us know how
calling.
it goes. Yeah, which one you do, and
tell us about we'd love to hear you call in and just share with us the experience and how it worked out for the two of you.
Yep.
Peace of mind, life insurance.
So here's the transition.
Yes. Sorry, I'm still not 100%, so I'm a little bit off tonight. I apologize.
And so the reason we're talking about life insurance tonight, Elise and I started talking about this about a week or so ago, and over the last 4 years, we've had 2 deaths happen to. One was to my cousin; her husband died, and just recently, one of our daughter Abby's childhood friends, their dad died. And what we realized and learned from both of these instances was a lot about life insurance. And in the case of my cousin, her husband was a stay-at-home parent. Mm-hmm. They were not adequately insured. And because of this, she was in real estate at the time. She had 3 kids and 1 on the way. It just caused a tremendous amount of pressure on her. Mm-hmm. The pressure to take care of the family, try to earn money, but also how do you take care of 3 kids with 1 on the way? Again, the life insurance was inadequate. And at that point in time, that was 3 years ago. 4 years ago now. Mm-hmm. Elise and I did have life insurance. Our life insurance, we started out with, I think I had $500,000.
I think that's right. I think you had 5 and I had 3.
And you had $300,000. And that's what we had up to 4 years ago mm-hmm. when my cousin's husband passed away. The way we came up with that, we were looking at 10 times income.
Mm-hmm.
Although Elisa was a stay-at-home mom, we really weren't sure. We're like, okay, well, a stay-at-home mom, $30,000 a year, that would be $300,000.
That's what I was making before I left the workforce.
Was that what? Okay.
Yeah, that's basically what we based
off. Yeah. Okay, and so that's what we had based off of. Here's the thing, and I think we got that through Xander Insurance, which is it was with Dave Ramsey.
Right. It was after we had.
It was with Xander.
It was after we'd gone through financial peace.
Mm-hmm.
Doing that on debt snowball. We'd done all of that stuff, and when we were going through that, we were pregnant with Alex.
Right.
And so we knew we had to start making plans for this unborn child.
Right.
And having just gone through all of the stuff with Dave Ramsey,
right.
Any of you that listen to Dave Ramsey know that one of his preferred providers is Xander Insurance. And so that was who we had first contacted.
And got our insurance
through. Fast forward from that point, 3 years later, we now have 2 children. And we're watching this scene in the family.
But wait, we didn't talk about why we upped our coverage.
Well, that's
okay.
That as a result of
Maria.
Yeah. Well, that's where I was going.
Okay.
That was the fast forward 3 years.
Oh, gotcha.
I was one of the first people to get to Tony's cousin that night. And became intimately involved in dealing with the insurance company and helping her and seeing what was happening as a result of the stay-at-home parent being the one that died. Mm-hmm. And seeing it's not just covering the bills, it's who takes care of the kids. Right. And who goes to the doctor's appointments. And with his cousin being in real estate, this also happened to unfortunately coincide with the market tanking in California.
That's right.
So mom doesn't really have much of an income because the market's bottoming out, declining rapidly here. There wasn't adequate insurance. She was 5 months pregnant at the time her husband died with child number 4. And you have all of these balls up in the air. Mm-hmm. All of these financial obligations and a life insurance policy that probably would get her through the first year.
If she was
maybe
lucky.
2.
Lucky. If
maybe
she was
2
lucky.
With their obligations. Yeah, 2 would have been a stretch.
Yes.
And I remember calling up our real estate agent. We had switched over a lot of
our insurance agent.
Oh yes, our insurance agent.
Sorry,
Bruce.
Yeah, we ended up, when we moved here to San Diego and I had my business, I found a agent here locally, and I gave him my business liability insurance needs. And little by little, Bruce has since gotten everything. It's just Lisa and I are very relational, and we built up trust with him. So everything is in one spot now. For us, that works out very nice, because in an incident, be it our car, be it our life insurance, business, everything just goes through Bruce.
So, but I remember calling Bruce and saying, we need to talk.
Yeah.
And I went in and said, we need to.
We both went in.
We
set up an appointment with Bruce, yes.
And I said, we need to increase my policy. And he looked at me and he's like, why? You're adequately covered. And I said, no, I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. If something happens to me, and granted, at that point in time, we had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, 3.5 and 6-month-old. And I realized, watching Tony's cousin go through this, that if something happened to me, what was Tony going to do? Tony is self-employed. If Tony doesn't work, we don't have an income.
Right.
If I'm dead and he's dealing with, what do I do with the kids? How do I help them cope with this? How do I cope with this? How do we handle it? He's not working.
Right.
Or if he is working, then who's taking care of my kids? Because I'm not there. And all of this starts to add up pretty quickly.
Yeah, especially if you have to put in the kids to daycare, or you're hiring a nanny to watch the kids. Yeah, it does.
So we increased both our policies. We switched them. Bruce hadn't had those policies, so we brought them over to Bruce at State Farm, and then we increased them.
And this is
substantially.
Right. And this is a way Elisa and I have looked at our life insurance policies, and the way we have it set up in our will and in our trust to work. Basically, the money that would be given would be paid out to the living spouse. That money would go directly to our financial advisor. And that money, his goal is to make 10%.
I thought it was 5.
General. We're hoping he makes 10, but if it's 5, it's 5.
It's the market.
Yeah, it's the market. We'd love for him to make 10%. If it's 5, it's still good. We could still live adequately. Either of us could live adequately on 5% without having to go to work.
Right.
And so what we ended up doing is increasing both of our policies to the same amount. And so, and we increased it to $1 million each. And Bruce looked at us cross-eyed. He was going, what are you doing? Why does Elisa need $1 million policy? She's a stay-at-home mom. Again, we had just seen everything that my cousin had gone through. And what I was looking at was, okay, in the event that my wife does pass away, she does a crap load of stuff around this house.
This is always a good talk to have after I've been gone for 4 days.
Yeah.
Because he really understands what I do.
Well, I mean, there's a lot that Elisa does. And I was sitting there just going, okay, am I really going to be able to run a business? And you think about the loss of somebody, especially your spouse. Are you going to just get up a week later and just go, okay, I'm going to go back to work? Now, if you work somewhere and you have vacation time and sick time and all that, and you can string it all together and get a month or 2 months off, kudos to you. I don't have that. I don't have that opportunity. I'm self-employed. If I go out tomorrow and I work, I make money. If I don't make money. Just the way it is. And we've built cushions and emergency funds and all that. But that's going to run out eventually. And so what I looked at was, in the event that Elisa passes away, what do I need so that I do not have to work again? So I am not stressed out about having to work. I can just live, take care of the kids. It may be a little tighter, but that's okay because we got one less person to feed. So, and again, all of this would go over to our financial advisor, making a minimum of 5%, hopefully more like 10% on income generating, right?
Yes. And, you mentioned another thing too about the fact it also ties in, and one of our fans on Facebook, Trian, had written in, you need to put it all in a trust, not just have a will. And we're not going to go into all of the legal documentation, but she is absolutely right. Mm-hmm. For us, it became a matter of, call it morbid, call it whatever you want. But I have thought through my financial plan. If something happens to Tony, I know how much money I'm getting. I know that Dave, who's our financial planner, knows exactly what he has to do with that money to live. I know how much money I'd be getting from Social Security each month for the kids. And I know how that's all allocated. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not written on paper, but I've thought about it so many times that I just know that this is what would happen. Because in our case, yes, I am the stay-at-home mom. So Tony's got to be prepared. If something happens to me, how does he take care of the kids? On the flip side, Tony is our breadwinner. Tony is the provider. If something happens to him, I don't want to have to go and suddenly be faced with the task of, I've lost my husband. My kids don't have a father. And to top it all off, ladies and gentlemen, I have to go find a job after being out of the quote-unquote workforce for the last at this point, it's been 7 years.
Right.
That would be a ridiculous amount of stress.
On anybody.
Yeah.
It really would.
And so that's why, with his plan, we did the same thing, because it was like, all right, I know I've got it all mapped out. This is, this is what I need to pay the mortgage. This is what I need to pay our monthly bills. This is what I need to, this takes care of everything.
Right.
And I can grieve. I can help the kids. We can do all our stuff, but money will not be an issue. And so many of you, when Tony posted this comment this week on the One Fan page, wrote in. And we are so thankful for your comments. And I want to share some of them with you, because I think you bring up some good points. I mean, we had this one comment from Christopher, and he said, we brought a term life policy from Xander a few years ago. It's irresponsible not to have it. Mm-hmm. And
I got David from Twitter, who said, my wife and I got our life insurance in place in February of 2005. Found out I had cancer 8 months later. It brought a lot of peace. And David's alive now. Yes, cancer-free 5 years. My son turns 2 this next Wednesday. Life is very precious, and I am so thankful. So, when we talk about life insurance, we're talking about financial intimacy. Mm-hmm. It's a big one, folks. This is like one of those areas that Elise and I didn't really want to go into. It's not something we just sat down one day and said, "Oh, you know what? This is fun. Let's talk about death." But it needs to be talked about.
Ultimately, it's going to happen to every one of us.
Yes, and if we believe that Jesus is our Lord and Savior, we're going to be going to heaven, and he's going to take us home one day. But life insurance isn't for you or me who is dead and in heaven. It's for the ones we love behind. And I'm here to tell you, man, the conversations you'll have, they're funky, they're weird, but they need to be had. Because life insurance is so important. I mean, like Elisa was saying off of the fan page there, a lot of folks were just saying why they have it. I have a feeling, I even asked, hey, if you don't have it, why not? I have a feeling that if you don't have it, either A, you haven't talked about it, or B, you've talked about it and just let it go, or you haven't thought about it at all.
Well, and that kind of ties into that whole will and trust thing.
Yeah,
because we had talked about life insurance. We'd gotten life insurance in place, but we had nothing legally in place for the kids.
Right. And then that was
and those are even harder conversations, because if you do have children, you need to have a will and you need to have a trust. You need to have all of your end of life documents in place. And these, like Tony said, these will be funky conversations. They will be hard because you might not agree on who should have your children in the event that you die. You might be thinking it's going to cause family tensions if you choose one
over the other
set of family members for guardianship and not the others. And you know what? The reality is you've got to do what's best for your family.
Mm-hmm.
And point blank, you've got to have your children taken care of.
Yep.
Because if you don't, in most states that I'm aware of, they end up as wards of the state. And that is not something you want to have happen to your children.
Mm-hmm.
Not when it's preventable, not when you can, you can find attorneys that will handle all of your documents for a very reasonable sum. But the peace of mind, I remember the day that we signed all of our legal documents and I looked at Tony and I'm like, whew, we can die now. Not that I was, jumping up and down that,
right.
I wanted him to die or I wanted to die, but it was the peace of mind knowing that we have all our ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Tony could go out on a bike ride tomorrow and, some crazy person hits him with a car and he ends up, dead. It's okay. It's okay in the sense that we've got it all handled. Financially, legally.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Tony around for the next 50 years.
So do I.
I'm planning.
I want to be doing 7 days of sex for 50 more years.
That's probably going to keep you around for 50 more years. But, it's like Ron said in one of his posts. He said, it gives me great comfort knowing my family would be provided for if I was gone.
Yeah. It's important. It really is. And the heartache that Elisa and I have seen with these 2 deaths that have happened in the last 4 years, it's tremendous. It's a lot of heartache. We know we've had to sit and stand beside my cousin for months, and God bless her, she's getting remarried.
She got remarried this past, not 4th of July weekend, the weekend before.
The weekend before she got remarried.
Mm-hmm.
Is life still a struggle for her at times? Yes. You can still hear it in her voice, and when she talks to us, we still hear it. But God bless her that she's gotten remarried to a wonderful guy who loves all 4 of her kids. Has just taken them on. He is the dad, and that's just a true blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that happen to all of us?
No.
No. But you really need to think about what is important. And I know some of you are out there going, well, I'm barely making ends meet now. You got to look into term life insurance. That's the only kind of insurance you need. It's term life insurance. Don't get this whole life or this annuity junk. It's term life. It's like car insurance. You pay it, and when you get into an accident, it takes care of you. No savings accounts, no buying into stocks and all this junk. It's just term life. You pay a monthly fee or a yearly fee and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you die, it pays out. If you don't,
okay,
it's all good. And it is by far the cheapest form.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we'll put a link to Xander Insurance. If you live in the Southern California area, I would ask you to call our agent, Bruce Hoffbauer. He's a State Farm agent here in Poway, and I can put his stuff in there. Bruce is an amazing and an exceptional guy. Bruce doesn't know we're talking about him. I haven't seen Bruce in months. So I'm just telling you the relationship that we have with Bruce and the things that we've had to deal with through other insurance purposes and 2 fires that we've seen blow through San Diego and how he treats people is bar none some of the best. And his staff is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if I walked in there or Elisa walked in there going, Tony died or Elisa died, they'd be right there putting their arms around us, taking care of us. And you know what? To me, that's worth a couple extra bucks. And I don't even think it's cost us couple extra bucks. So you got to do it. There's no more waiting around and thinking about it and talking about it. It's time to let the rubber hit the pavement here and go do it.
Because you just don't know.
You don't.
In both of the instances that we've known of in the last 4 years, they were fluke accidents.
Mm-hmm. They were.
Dad leaves in the morning and something happens during the day.
Yeah.
in routine circumstances that, it should never have happened because both men died way, way too young and left behind children and wives who still, can't necessarily wrap their arms around what happened and why it happened so young. And, if you've thought about it, but you just don't want to have the conversation with your spouse, sit down and let them know how important they are to you. This is a because I love you conversation. This is because I love you. I want you to be taken care of in the event that something happens to me. And we need to talk about this. Because I would love to, tell everybody, yeah, we've got the crystal ball and we know exactly, when your death's going to happen and how it's going to happen. And we don't have that crystal ball. None of us does. None of us knows, like, was it Dave that wrote you on Twitter? David. He did not know when he got his life insurance policy that he was going to be diagnosed within that year with cancer. Didn't know that. None of us knows that. So don't wait for something to happen and then have it be too late. Because when your family's picking up the pieces and trying to figure out what the next step is, give them the peace of mind that they don't have to worry about making the mortgage payment or putting groceries on the table or putting gas in the car. It doesn't seem like much, but in those months immediately following a death, everything is an expense. Heck, paying for the funeral. When I went to the funeral home and they start rattling out this and that.
How much was it?
Oh, it was ridiculous. I mean, I want to say it was close to $10,000, like the original package, the casket and the this and the that. I mean, it was $10,000, if not more.
Wow.
And you're emotional. You're trying to figure out, how it's all going to work. And suddenly somebody's saying, well, this is going to be $10,000. And you're like, what?
Yeah, especially in her case where there wasn't a big life insurance.
$10,000 was a lot. And, so you start thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to make every penny count because I only have so many pennies?
Right.
How do I feed the kids? How do I hold on to the house? How do I pay for doctor's appointments and clothes and whatever it is? Give your family that peace of mind. Have the conversations with your spouse in this next week. The what if conversations.
Right.
Give your spouse the financial freedom to say, you know what? Just like me, I know if something happens to Tony, I've got it all mapped out. I know that I actually won't have, I could live off the interest and the Social Security death benefits for the rest of my life.
That's cool.
That is cool. It's a nice peace of mind.
It is. No.
Because
hey, riding my bike every time I do, I think about that.
I think about it too. When you're late coming home.
Yeah.
I know it's usually a flat tire, but not every time when you're late, but if you start, because as an aside, I usually give Tony an hour window to make it home. And after that hour, then my nervousness just starts to ratchet up. And he knows that. He usually calls by minute 59. But it's a reality.
It is.
It's a reality because you spend so much time in the car every day.
Yep, driving to my jobs.
You're in the car from the moment you leave the house, until it's time to come home.
Yep.